First of all, thank you for having me here. And maybe let me start by emphasizing, as the representative of one of the EU member states, that for the Commission, as the report testifies, but also for the member states, the issue of gender equality. And I will say that several times in the course of what I'm going to say, in a broader sense, equality of all people belonging to groups in society who are at risk of being marginalized or being discriminated against. This is an essential topic for us in the process of EU accession. Gender equality, it was mentioned several times, figures prominently in the Cluster 1, in the fundamentals, but also as a genuinely cross-cutting issue in many of the other so-called negotiation chapters, for example, chapter 19 on social policy and employment. And yesterday, when I prepared a little bit for this meeting, I also read the report of a meeting of an EU working group which took place a week ago or something on gender equality in the Western Balkans, where a number of member states, including my country, reaffirmed that gender equality is for them an essential aspect of the accession negotiations. Issues that were discussed at that meeting, for example, but these are bits and pieces, for example, the gap between the legal framework for gender equality in a country, which oftentimes is not so bad, and the implementation of that framework. The issue of, it has been mentioned here several times, misogyny and hate speech against women, which seems to be, not only in the Western Balkans, around the world, a problem which is increasing in dimension. The issue of continuing underrepresentation of women in the economy, the issue of unequal pay between women and men, sometimes in the civil service, definitely in the private sector. So I think it is appropriate to take the issue of gender equality very serious in the context of EU accession negotiations. I find it good that the Center Ženska Prava has made the effort to go through this long report and figure out the many different elements relating to gender equality and other issues of marginalization. And honestly speaking, I also find it very good that the Deputy President of the Parliament and two ministers exposed themselves to this discussion today before a broad and really a packed Evropska kuća to address this issue. As I said, aspects of gender equality and equality issues in a broader sense are all over the place in the EU progress report, and this also signals actually how the issue of equality needs to be addressed, and it can be addressed only by mainstreaming, in a broader sense, the rights and the resources and the representation of women and of marginalized people into all policies, and this must be the overarching answer to achieving gender equality across the board. And we have heard beautiful examples on how this is happening in Montenegro. And this is also, as you were asking about it, the definition of the feminist foreign policy that my country has adopted now almost 2 years ago, mainstreaming the rights, the resources, and the representation of women and of marginalized people into all dimensions of our foreign policy. We are in excellent company with our feminist foreign policy. You mentioned a number of countries, and please be aware the word feminist does not signal anything extreme or dogmatic. Actually, our minister emphasizes the pragmatic aspect of feminist foreign policy. It is just the realization that for good reasons we need to bear the equality aspect in mind whenever we design and implement all kinds of policies. And we should not be naive. There is this hope that at the international level and in the country, step by step, we are making progress on gender equality. But we are facing in a number of countries kind of a rollback or an attempt of a rollback. We cannot take it for granted that this is going to be better in the course of time. It has something to do with the rise of, let's say, authoritarian governments and regimes. It has sometimes had something to do with the increasing role of religion on politics. There are many different factors, but we need to be vigilant and we need to be aware, and we need to, as was said here, allocate the funding, develop the expertise, and of course have the strong political will also to go against attempts of a rollback where this might happen. Now when it comes to our feminist foreign policy, first of all, we have to look at our own structures and processes, because as of today we ourselves are far from living up to the ambitions that are expressed in our feminist foreign policy. So when we work internally, and this sounds a little bit like Minister Šaranović was mentioning in his ministry, we have set up a completely new set of mechanisms to protect everybody from mobbing, from discriminatory practices, from sexualized behavior and harassment, by educating staff, by raising awareness for the phenomenon, and by providing strong and easily accessible remedies to possible victims. In our recruitment policy, we are actively eliminating intrinsic discriminatory elements, such as questions or exercises in the recruitment exam that maybe not even on purpose, but if you make yourself aware what we are talking about, you find it out, that disadvantage women or people belonging to other potentially marginalized groups in comparison to men. We actively promote diversity, including regarding origin and disability, and as long as we have not achieved gender parity within our staff, we actively promote the career advancement of women and of Germans with, how should I say, non-mainstream ethnic background. And because we are sitting here on the panel, our internal guidelines also strongly discourage us to participate as panelists in panel discussions where the panel has a strong gender imbalance. So I'm very happy about for many reasons, about the composition of this panel. Just in our guidelines to remind ourselves to be serious about gender equality, and where appropriate also to send a signal of gender sensitivity to the hosts of the respective panels. Good, no need to do it here. It is clear gender equality is a rights issue, but, and we see it in our ministry, even more, we simply, and no country can, no ministry can afford to forsake the valuable contributions that people from a whole broad range of an increasingly diverse society, and all our societies are getting increasingly